being able to show that you understand how to take an insight and turn that into action and deliver a result on it is I think a way to set yourself apart from other people who are applying for jobs at Amazon.
Thank you, Adam, for your time today. Really appreciate being here, and really nice to do this interview in person versus Zoom. So, Adam, would you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Young. Happy to be here. So I've been here at Amazon for about coming up on 2 years in August. And before Amazon, I worked in the ad agency world, and I worked in account management, which meant that I was the liaison between the ad agency and the client or the brand. And worked with them on developing the advertising strategy, messaging strategy, and developing and producing their creative. And that was everything from television ads to social media to still photography and print and digital. And I did that for about 15 years before joining Amazon.
Tell me about the most memorable ad that you have created so far.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I've made a lot of ads. I think probably the most memorable one was for a product that I never thought I would ever work on in advertising, which was Super Glue. I worked on the brand Loctite, and they had this big ambition to become a household brand name for Super Glue. And the agency I was working at, we developed a Super Bowl commercial for them. And the ad was a music video of sorts of people breaking and fixing things with Loctite Super Glue while wearing fanny packs. And it was probably one of the most fun commercials I've ever worked on one of the biggest advertising stages that there is.
Sounds like a fun project for sure. So you've been working in the ad world for over 15 years before joining Amazon. What made you to jump into Amazon as a career change?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. One of the things that, having worked in advertising for that long, I was looking for a bit of a more rounded view of marketing versus just advertising. With advertising being one part of the marketing mix, I wanted to get a better view. And so I was looking for the right brand to work on that was still very creative and innovative and had big ambitions, because the brands that I'd worked on in advertising had those same sort of ambitions and didn't want to lose that. I enjoyed that about advertising. And so I was approached for an opportunity here at Amazon to take the skills that I had learned in advertising and bring them into a role here at Amazon.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. You said you were approached by someone to join Amazon. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about the process of coming into the company? How you were approached, and what were the interview process look like and all that?
Yeah. So I was approached by somebody I knew and they referred me to this open position, and so they had submitted my resume for me, and the process from there is it gets in front of recruiting, and I was part of. I had to do 2 phone screens where you talk to a couple people and they vet, to make sure that you've got the right experience and that sort of thing. And then I was fortunate enough to get an on-site Loop interview where back then you did interviews in person, and they flew me out here to Seattle, and I spent a whole day in a conference room with people coming in and asking me questions about leadership principles. I tell everybody that that process, I think I studied more for my Amazon interviews than I did for any final or course in college to make sure that I had all my material ready and prepared for any question that could come my way.
Totally. And I can totally resonate with that. Now we have 2 more leadership principles, so you have 2 more to study. Anyway, tell me, so you work as a senior brand marketing manager. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and maybe a little bit about your day-to-day?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because having been here at Amazon for close to 2 years, I've been on the consumer electronics marketing team. But what I was originally hired to do was to create an employer brand for the organization that consumer electronics is a part of, which is Hardlines. That covers everything from consumer electronics to home to automotive and a lot of different product categories.
Yep.
And so, as I mentioned, I was hired to do this and leverage the skills and knowledge that I had in branding for consumer products or consumer-facing marketing for employees. And so I did that for about a year, and actually it was probably about a year and a half that I did that for, and launched this brand in the middle of COVID internally, and then I transitioned into a new role working on the consumer electronics marketing team for specific product categories. So I support the home entertainment, audio and accessories, and musical instruments. And so within that role, I am in charge of developing marketing programs or strategies for those categories to drive traffic to those stores on Amazon.com.
Gotcha. So, I mean, branding in a way, it was similar to what you were doing before, but I noticed that a lot of that is pretty much new for when you joined Amazon. So I wanted to ask if you had any learning curve, and if you had, what were some of the resources that you took advantage of to kind of get onboarded and get used to doing your day-to-day?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question because I think a lot of times, on the outside, Amazon's a humongous company.
Yeah.
But when you join, you realize that, we're still kind of a startup. And you have the ability to create new mechanisms or new tools to help you do your job more efficiently. Yeah. And in my case, I was one person to do this and had a couple of other folks who worked with me, but they were more support and volunteers, where this was my day-to-day job. And so traditionally, there would be a whole team of people to do that before I joined Amazon, but it was on me to be a strategist, a researcher, a creative, as well as a project manager. So I had to wear a lot of different hats. And so there was a bit of a learning curve on that of like, where do I find that resource? Or where does that exist? Or how do I do this here at Amazon? I know how to do it at my old where I used to work. So there is that learning curve, but I think the one thing that I had that was really good is I had really supportive managers and stakeholders to help kind of guide me to maybe where some resources were or ideas of things that I could leverage that I wouldn't normally be aware of because I was still new to Amazon.
Gotcha. So it was more so around people who kind of supported and helped you out with. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I would say that's kind of a key to being successful at Amazon is being able to recognize what you don't know and hunting it down. I dive deep as a leadership principle or learn and be curious, and those are really good at helping you figure out how to be successful at your job. And sometimes that could be as going on a wiki and reading about it. We do a lot of wikis. Or searching our phone tool, which is the employee directory, to be like, I think this person might know where that exists, and just kind of cold calling them to say, hey, do you know anything about this? And you'd be surprised how many people who either say yes or they're like, no, but you should talk to so and so, and that's how you're able to find something.
Navigating through Amazon was definitely a challenge for me as well. So what do you like the most about your role working here at Amazon?
I think the thing that I like the most is that you have the ability to kind of mold your job or your role. you have a specific, scope of work that you need to execute against and deliver against. But in addition to that, you have the ability to come up with new ideas. And to push those ideas forward, whether that's through writing docs or just literally seeing something that could be done better, raising that to somebody, and then them being like, yeah, that makes sense, and then you just go do it. There's a lot of autonomy and ownership ability in what you do in your role, and I think that to me is one of the best things about working here is that you're not just hired to do the thing that you were your job title says you are, or what your scope is. You have so much more opportunity to build on that and invent and innovate and try new things, and a lot of the times people, that's where really the cool things happen, is you're working with your partner teams or your stakeholders and saying, hey, what if we did this? And they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, and then you just go do it. You don't have to ask for permission, more or less. You just kind of go and do it.
Yeah, and I remember talking with my former manager as well. Like I in the beginning, I think I kind of asked him, can I do this? Can I do that? And he was like, at some point, you can just do whatever you want. And I was like, okay. And yeah, I totally understand what you mean.
And I think that's one of the things that people don't realize when they come here, because you're so used to like needing somebody to sign off on something and give you approval to give formal approval to do something. Whereas Amazon, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Just go do it.
Yeah. Just go do it.
Just go do it.
Side question: what's your favorite leadership principle?
I do love the leadership principles. It's hard to really narrow down to one. I think what I'll do is I'll reframe the question a little bit and talk about what ones that I think you need to really be successful as a new Amazon employee. I think earn trust. Being able to build relationships, I think, is a given. There's going to be some times where you're going to need someone's help. On a project or a program that you're working on, and so having the ability to earn trust and develop relationships with people, I think, is crucial to success. I think the idea of being learn and be curious, for sure. Trying to understand why something is the way it is, or how does this work or that work, helps you have a better context and scope of what the things are that are going on around you. And then the third one that I really like is bias for action. We were just talking about just do it. I think not being told to do something or reactive, but being more proactive is a real key to success. So I think those are three leadership principles that I try to really make sure that I'm honing in on. But I can say good things about all of them.
I think that was a much better question plus an answer versus what's your favorite LP. So tell me about Amazon's culture and maybe a little bit about the work-life balance.
Yeah, we were talking about leadership principles. I think leadership principles really do make a big part of the culture at Amazon. I tell people when they ask about, a similar question is that, the leadership principles are more than just, posters in a break room. They truly are the culture of Amazon, and they are used and leveraged for how we do our jobs. You can be in a meeting and ask, how does this benefit the customer? This may be a great idea. It may make sense, from a profit and loss perspective, but how does it benefit the customer? And that's a leadership principle, because we're customer obsessed. Is this the right thing for customers? And always having that filter. So I think, the way I kind of think about the Amazon culture, I think about that, the leadership principles and how much those drive it. When it comes to work-life balance, I've had a chance to work at a lot of different places in my career, and I think work-life balance is going to vary by the team. I think the maturity of the team, and not just how old people are on it, but just like how long has it been around. Working in retail, this is kind of the core of where Amazon started, and so there are busy times of the year, and you can just expect them, and you can plan on them. And other than that, I feel like the managers and the people on your team help set that work-life balance as well. And for me, I've learned that you can't work all the time 24/7. It's just not sustainable. And so being able to step away from the computer, and unless an email comes across at night that is a crucial email, it can wait till the next day. It's kind of the philosophy, and especially as we've been working from home, your office is 5 feet away from your living room or something like that, and so being able to kind of mentally switch gears has been something that I've had to get used to from working from home.
Like that answer. My last question. So, advice for those who want to join Amazon.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've had a chance to talk with some former colleagues and others who thought about making the jump to Amazon, and some of the guidance I give them are talked about the leadership principles, but also just in the preparation for applying for a job at Amazon. There's a very high bar at Amazon, and it continues to get raised all the time. And one of the things that I try to tell people to help set themselves apart is in their resume. Knowing that Amazon is a data-driven company, being able to show that you understand how to take an insight and turn that into action and deliver a result on it is I think a way to set yourself apart from other people who are applying for jobs at Amazon, because that's what the questions are going to be when you get interviewed. Whether it's a deliver results or bias for action or earns trust, you need to follow that same sort of thought process of how do I take an insight, put it into action, and deliver a result for it, because that's really what Amazon, that's how we are successful, and that's how we evaluate ourselves on an individual basis throughout our careers here at the company.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valid answer, because been in interviews, mock interviews, it's I think people know the importance of data and all that, but like it's sometimes really hard to resonate or kind of come up with those stories with those data in it during their interview process. So that makes sense.
And I think there's a misconception is that a data point is an insight. Well, a data point isn't necessarily an insight. You're taking that data point and
to drive it insight.
Exactly. It's like clicking down a couple more layers to figure out what drove that data point, what's going on behind it in the background to arrive at that point. That's the insight. And I think that sets people apart too. And having done some interviews while I've been here as well for external candidates of do they understand that, and is that a real insight?
Yeah. Well, I think those are all my questions for you today. Thank you so much, Adam.
Hey, thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Appreciate it.